here at Grant McCune Design with the Nostromo from the first Alien movie, and we're in the very beginnings of doing a restoration of the surface and the structure, getting it close to what it looked like when they were through filming. This particular model sat out in the rain for close to 20 years. It went through a lot of warpage and shrinkage, which pulled a lot of the structural seams apart.
A lot of the wood, a lot of the leading edges, a lot of the compound curves are all made of solid blocks and they've all shrunken away. You can see it especially prominent on the upper toe line. It's actually shrunk 1/4 to 1/2 inch.
We actually had to remove this whole upper panel and put a new substructure in. And the removed panel was soaked in water for 48 hours till it got soft enough to be malleable. Then an interior structure was added, and this was pressure pressed with another polymer adhesive till it retained its natural shape. This would be an extreme area. We would have to remove most of these panels and replicate the shape, bring them back in, and then heat bend them back into place and cement them. There's actually a dust ridge where the edge of each panel was. So I'm just making reference marks, and we'll come back and we'll cut square pieces, square edged pieces that match the shapes that are missing. It's fortunate that the way this wood weathered actually left a relief around each panel that's missing, so I can recreate what was here before.
These are parts that we haven't found a home for yet, but major parts like this, I know where the kind of vicinity where they go, because some of these styrene patterns were unique to certain parts of the ship. Everything you see taped up was not there to begin with. It's just a matter of finding the shape that would kind of fit there and finding evidence that continues through to a second part, just matching parts.
Walk in the park. We fix something, we stay fixed, don't we, Brent, baby?
As we came into phase 2 for restoration, there was a number of components or details that were missing, so they had to be replicated. For instance, for the landing gear, it had the two rear landing gear, but it didn't have the nose gear, so we had to completely reproduce or replicate this original component, and it's an exact copy of the original. Now that was molded out of a two-piece mold, so we had to isolate one of the quadrants for the gear, and then make a fairly sophisticated two-piece mold. This is how it comes out. And within the casting was placed a threaded piece of all thread so that it could be mounted into the fuselage of the ship. That's just one of 30 molds that were created to replicate pieces that were missing.
Kill drive engines.
This is one of the medium-sized vector flaps. This is cast in a two-part plastic urethane, and so the replica is here. It hasn't been trimmed yet, but you can see no details lost. So that's the process we're using. If we're lucky enough to have a component that's remaining, we just remold it and replicate it. One of the larger pieces that was missing was this multiple outlet exhaust platform for the engines. The original pieces were made out of at least 50 individual components, and which aren't available anymore. So what we had to do was come up with a mold system that would replicate the interior as well as the exterior. You can see it's a core mold. So that allows the inside detail to be the same as the outside detail, which in essence it reproduces the original part exactly without having to make it out of 100 separate little pieces. These are the largest exhaust nozzles that were on the Nostromo. This is one of the replicated outlets that fits right inside there like that. And then with that are these replicated vectoring flaps that will go in an octagon around the outside of that.
In the upper turret, we have some pictures which you probably will see where the majority, it's pretty much bare wood up here when we first got it. There was a majorly distorted part here. It had shrunken by 20%. It's kind of a featured piece. It's the centerpiece of this. It's this tank turret from an old British Matilda tank. We ended up searching for reference as to which tank it was. We found it and we purchased the kit, and then it's the exact same kit, fit in perfectly, and there it sits now, brand new. Other than that, everything else you see here is bits and pieces, majorly consists of bits and pieces from the original ship.
Jack had talked about how these nose pieces or nacelles on the intakes were all bare wood that had shrunken away. Well, that's been refurbished, repaired, and matching panels to the existing photographs that we had to replicate how it looked during filming. So you can see how this whole section has been restored, sealed, rebonded, and it's ready to go.
Money's safe. Let's take her down.
So what we have here are some of the missing pieces that we had kind of reconstruct from scratch. Pretty much everything here, we kind of depleted the entire shop of everything that was old. So we used all the brass and all the parts we could to make it as accurate as possible. Here we have a whole series of antennas that are all kind of brass and plastic etch. They're mixed with a lot of the existing pieces and use the photos as reference as much as possible to be as accurate as we could. There's 3 that go on there, but there's kind of 2 of them. This was one of the first pieces we started on, and it's kind of a thruster nodule, I'd guess, that goes right below the main front of the conning tower there. Olivia was eating a yogurt one day and it wound up being the cone was perfect, so that's what the understructure for that is, with the little metal bucket. Always kind of fun to see what we can find in the shop that will work to fill the spaces for what you're trying to build. And you got a series of screw points that hold it in. This is the mounting rod for the overly long antenna.
Engine room, red clip status.
Good profiles, HRSU.
1 kilometer on ascension.
What we got here are the top inlets that are kind of smaller versions of the larger inlets. What we have here is another detail piece that goes on the back of the cone. We followed the outline of what once was. That goes as such, and then the exhaust line feeds in right in there. We got a series of strut formations that Jack did all the research on. It has 2 kind of tripodial type arms that connect to it. So this was the master for it. We molded it, and then these are the pieces for it. Most of the parts obviously were from 1970 model kits. Grant's shop also is started in the 70s, so a lot of his bends still had some of the old parts, and so as much as we could, we kind of filled out through those. And then go through the ship itself, it's almost like one of those sets where you see the picture on the wall that's gone, but you can see the outline of it. So we did a lot of that mapping to figure out where the pieces are.
Prime the port.
Here we're doing the final setup in the lobby here, the Prop Store of London, and I guess you get to see it come together for the first time in probably 20 years or so. So hope you enjoy the final procedures of putting it all together.
I just want to say on behalf of Grant McCune Design that we thank you and thank the Prop Store of London for giving us the opportunity to bring the Nostromo back to its former glory. And thank you to all my model makers that helped put all their energy and talents into making this like it should be.